Well, hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of what I've been calling Chatting with Chase, where we're just taking some time to interview some people from our church so that you can stay up to date on what is all going on and see some people that you know. And you might be looking at the screen right now saying, I don't know if I know her. Well, I have the honor and privilege today to interview Krista Stevens. And if the name still doesn't sound familiar, this is our new Connections Pastor's way better half, Krista. So we're super excited that she was willing to do this. And so the reason I'm interviewing her actually is because we've interviewed Brendan a few times, and he was our last guest last week. And someone afterwards sent me a text that says, so great getting to know Brendan, but since we can't meet his family, could we hear a little bit about his wife? Could you interview her? And I was like, sure, let's do it. So we're really excited. Krista, thank you so much for joining me today. In a minute or less, let the people know, who is Krista Stevens?
Okay. Well, as you said, I'm the wife of Brendan Stevens. We've been married for almost 11 years and together for 4 additional years, so 15. So that's a part of who I am. I'm also a mom to 3 young little kids. They're the best. They're also, keep me on my toes. But personality-wise, I consider myself a risk taker, a thrill seeker. I'm definitely the outgoing one. Brendan is definitely outgoing, but how he gets recharged is by being alone. How I get recharged is by being around people. So quarantine has been a challenge for that reason, but it's also had its perks too. Yeah. So that's probably me in a nutshell.
I love it. That's awesome. So, and what do you do for a living? I think this is pretty cool. Your job outside of being an incredible mom and wife and person and follower of Jesus. What do you do for work?
Yeah, so I work for Bethany Christian Services. If you're familiar with Bethany, we have a worldwide presence, but particularly a nationwide presence. And so we have offices all across the United States, but I work at several of the Michigan offices. So I supervise the domestic infant adoption program for all of West Michigan. So that's as far up as Muskegon, down through Grand Rapids, Holland, all the way down to Kalamazoo. And then I also supervise some of the activities in Lansing. So I specifically supervise pregnancy counselors who work with clients who are experiencing an unplanned or crisis pregnancy. And I also supervise adoption specialists who are working with the adoptive families who want to adopt someday. So if we end up working with a mom who decides adoption is the best option for her child, then we help her find an approved Bethany adoptive family, which is where that adoption specialist comes in.
That's awesome. The reason I think that's so cool, and many of our church family, some people know this and not everyone does, but me and my wife were actually at the end process of the foster care part through Bethany. So we are just like right there. We're supposed to be fully licensed foster care family in February, March. And then some things got pushed away. And then in the midst of all the coronavirus, we're just in a waiting process. So we're really excited about that. And I promise you as part of River's Edge, you're going to hear more and more about how you can help and be a part of fostering and caring for widows and orphans, and just how powerful that is as a follower of Jesus. So I don't find it strange that we're bringing someone into our church family that is connected with foster care and adoption and loving on people as Bethany does. So I'm really excited for that part.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's awesome. And the biggest need is in foster care right now by far. So yeah. I'm glad you're pursuing that.
Yeah, I think everyone should be involved in some way. And that doesn't mean everyone has to be foster care, or everyone has to adopt, but everyone can be involved in some way to make an impact on those that need help and need help in the family. And we're called to. So it's like we don't have an excuse as followers of Jesus. So I'm excited about that. Short little brag on you from me. I don't know Krista that well. At first, I didn't really love Krista because her name is Krista, and that's my sister's name. And it's like, I don't know, maybe we'll fight a lot like me and my sister do. I don't know. But that was a joke. Don't be mad.
I was laughing.
I don't want anybody out there to be like, I can't believe No, but we're excited to have you, and our team, our search team, is one of the unique things as interview for a pastor position is a lot of times one of the interviews you'll bring your spouse with you, and I think it's awesome and a little weird all at the same time. It's great because it gives you a chance to get to know our vibe as a church. It's awesome for us because it gets us a chance, because ministry is not just a job that you can leave after at the office. It's something that's all the time, and it's something that the family is heavily involved in. And so we always say we're not hiring you or interviewing the spouse. However, we want you to be able to see who we are. So I know our staff, the team that we had that on the search committee, just absolutely loved you and thought that you and Brendan had just a really cool dynamic and played well with each other in that conversation that we had. So we're looking forward to when we actually get to hang out with you, like dinner, and your kids and my kids are similar ages. So we're really looking forward to the friendship that's coming ahead. So thank you so much just for being yourself in that interview.
Yeah,
We're excited
you're
to have
welcome.
you. So
Yeah.
well, I'm going to ask one question before we kind of get the whole point of this interview process is to ask about the corona crisis and how that's impacted your life. And but I thought I'd ask this is the normal question is, what brought you to River's Edge and how long you been here? And not that long, and you haven't even shown up at a service yet. So the question I'll ask for you is, in the midst of the interview process, or just as you guys have now officially been welcomed into the family, what's just one thing that has stood out to you about River's Edge that you're like, man, I think that's cool, or I like that, or I'm looking forward to get to know more about that? Anything pop in your head?
Yeah, definitely. There's a few things, but I have a hard time landing the plane, so I'll keep it brief.
Yeah.
I'm always willing to elaborate, though, if anybody has questions. I think this goes back to like when Brendan was called into ministry, but the thing that a theme that he and I have always been looking for in a community or a church community or wherever is just that the people we spend time with are ministering to that community.
Mm.
And we've had opportunities to be in a lot of different communities. And the second I started hearing about your church and doing research on my own, or I should say our church, and doing research on my own, that stood out to me right away. On your website, just that you really care about the people in your community, so inside the church group, and also the local outside community. And that's so important. I think that's biblical, and I could go into all the reasons why I feel that's important, but that's what really drives and therefore ministers to Brendan and I on a personal level.
Mm.
So when I came to the interview, because that was really my only opportunity to see some people because the quarantine was already kind of in effect at that point, or going to be in effect. It was just even more evident in hearing people explain what their experiences were within the church. And it just got me really excited. And I think I said this in the interview, whether you were to select our family or a different family, we know that this church is going to do good things. Like, you can literally feel it. So that's really exciting to me, even now thinking about it. That gets me really excited for when we are able to meet again. We can just kind of hit the ground running.
Yeah, awesome. I appreciate you saying that, and that's why I love our church too. It's great, not just because I get to be a pastor and they pay me, but I do enjoy this place, and I think it's doing great stuff. God's doing great stuff in and through us, so we're happy to have you guys. So all right, so the core question, just kind of, man, this COVID-19 stuff it's like changing all the time and impacting everyone at the same time, just in different ways, and affecting everyone in different ways. So what has changed the most for you, whether it's in your job or just as a mom or just as a person? What kind of has been the biggest shift for you in the midst of all this?
I actually don't think I can identify one big shift. I think it all shift in one major way at the same time. And that would be being secluded in our house and knowing that that is important and it's vital to other people's livelihoods. So how I behave and how our family behaves could have a direct or indirect impact on people around us in our community, our family, our friends, and whatnot. So practically or logistically, a lot of things changed. I ended up working from home and I became a homeschool teacher.
Yeah.
I know a lot about third grade. fractions now and parallelograms. And
Yeah.
I know how to color in the lines with my 5-year-old,
Yeah.
So that has been a challenge for sure. I laugh about it here, but there are days that it's just like it's a lot to handle.
Yeah, for sure.
And I believe pretty firmly that the more you talk about the difficulties of life,
Mm.
the more you put light on it and the less daunting it seems.
Amen.
So I think by us doing an interview and you doing other interactions and posting it for people to see sheds light on the fact that like we are all in the same boat. And
Yeah.
I keep telling my team at work often, like, really, I'm sorry that today is terrible, but the consolation is we're in the same boat and God's got this no matter
Absolutely.
what. So I don't mean to make it sound like, oh, it's all roses, it's not that bad, but like everybody's life has kind of come to a halt.
Yeah.
So I think we're all in the same boat. We all feel that differently, but we're all
Yeah.
in a similar situation.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I love that. I love that truth at the end of it is that God's got this. And I love the fact that it's okay to bring light to it. And I think it's okay to make light of some of it, because if we don't have that humor, I'm gonna be in trouble. So I need that in my life, and it helps me in these tough times. So what's been the most difficult part for you, if you could pick one thing that what's been hard for you during this?
Um,
And if there's nothing, that's okay too. We're like, hey,
yeah,
it's been all right.
I mean, I think the hardest part is that every day seems like its own little thing.
Mm,
So it's its own new experience. And while I love adventure, I don't always love the difficulties that come with certain
yeah,
adventures. And it kind of feels like every day feels different to me right now with
yeah.
work. We have to be really creative with how we're doing things. Half of my staff are considered essential workers, so they do go into hospitals for deliveries.
Mm,
So like every day is different depending on who's delivering, who's not, who's going where. And you just have to be extra cautious with the
yeah,
current environment. And then same at home, normally you send your kids off to school and whatever behavior they're having that day, their teacher deals with it. Well, now you're doing it at home times
yeah.
3, right? And our oldest, Breslin, is trying to do math homework while JJ is literally just losing his mind because he wants the iPad. And my 8-year-old, I think, is an actual saint. So I think that's it. I think every day, because of personalities and different layers, you just really never know what you're walking into. So
Yeah.
that consistency and that predictability of schedules and such has been eliminated.
Yeah.
So that's a challenge. I think everybody would feel that to some degree.
Yeah. All right. I'm throwing a curveball. I thought of a great question that I didn't give you ahead of time, but I think you can handle it. So you can have a couple extra seconds. Think of this. Like, what's a secret story that we need to know about Pastor Brendan? Like, what's something we ought, like, something about him that we should all know that he, I don't know, wouldn't want us to know. I don't know. What's something cool? Again, we like to have fun here. So what do we
Yeah.
need to know about Brendan? Maybe a story or something about him. It's like, oh, he's not going to love I told this, but I give you permission.
Well, so I kind of have a prepared answer for this because
All right.
I'm very good at embarrassing people.
Yes.
I have a very low filter. So I've come to realize that when it comes to people that I care about, that are close to me, I should not throw them under the bus and back it up.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
I do have a middle of the line fun story.
Yes, I like middle of the
So
line.
when Brendan and I we met in college. I was in my undergrad program and he was like a super senior, so he was about to graduate from his undergrad program. And I always kind of noticed that he wore really odd matching colors, but I couldn't figure out why. Like they're always very dark and muted, and I thought, got no sense of style. So fast forward 2 years, he moved out of state for internship, and I went to go visit him. And before I went there, he had bought a car. So I hadn't seen it before. He described it to me as a silvery gold color. And then I was walking out, like he picked me up at the airport. And he's like, guess which car it is? Guess which car it is? And we walked around for a really long time and I couldn't figure it out. In that moment, we realized he's colorblind.
He didn't know.
He did not know he's colorblind. And so we were walking. This is the middle of the line store. He just peeked his head in. So the public knows he's colorblind.
Yeah.
He always says, "I'm not color dumb." I know, because the youth love to tease him about that.
Okay.
So he's colorblind. It all started to make sense why he never wore colors that matched. Why he told me his car was a silvery gold is because he was seeing the flecks of color in it that were like shiny or metallic. The car was actually green. But he could not see that.
I love it.
That was good. And there's a lot of stories.
Discover that. Yeah.
Yeah. And then my hair is currently red, as you all can see. For years, I just dyed it back to red, but for years it was bright fire engine red, like that book on that shelf there behind me. And he did not know. He did not know. He thought it was like a muted red. And then somebody made a comment. He said, "What color is your hair?"
Wait a second, darling. What is that? Oh, yeah. That's good. Yeah, that's why him and Charlie are sharing an office, and he said, "I let Charlie pick out the colors," and I was like, "Okay, man, do what you got to do." You know, he's like, "Yeah, it's all great to me." So I love it. That's great. See, that's a great story. I'm glad you were able to share. Ready for it right away. We're so excited to have you guys join our church family. I know it's a unique time to be starting a new job and joining a new church when you can't actually join, but we're so pumped to have you, and I really believe that you guys are going to be a huge part of just what God does in our future. So thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for being a part of this with me today. Thank you everyone else for listening and checking us out. Again, every week I'm going to try to find people that you need to hear about and you need to know what's going on in their lives. So thanks again, Krista. Everyone else, we'll see you next week.
Thank you.